We came here today with a few questions that we would like to reflect on with you. So primarily, is distance learning really effective? Secondly, is remote work really effective? Because it is clear for us that in current situation, it is a necessity to stay at home for our common good. So this is a, let's say, perfect time when we should think what else can be done to make learning and work more effective and maybe just nicer and more fun for all of us. I'm sure, Erik, you've got some more questions to that.
Definitely. And well, thanks for the introduction, Rob. And my comment, and I'm going to say this as carefully as I can and as respectfully as I can as well, for those who have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. Nonetheless, the regulations put in place by this pandemic offered us the perfect scenario to test the use of board game development and tabletop development as a method for improving learning and development. So the constraints we faced at the beginning, namely working from home, students, listening to classes from home, quickly turned into catalysts of change. And as a result, we have a much better project, and we also have more exciting data to share. Game design, board game design to be more specific, is a powerful learning method, that can be used in corporate settings as well as in the classroom. And now let's jump right into it. And I have a video to share, so let me just do this very quickly.
Okay, so what you could see, these are the screenshots of some of the amazing projects developed with the Toolbox for Creativity. And you also could show our work when we were creating the physical boxes. So at the moment, we've got nearly 30 advanced prototypes of serious games regarding chronotypes, regarding personality, ways of dealing with stress, ways of coping with burnout, about temperament. And I have to admit that this project would probably never have came into existence without Gamification Europe conference, because it was at the conference that I met Erik, and we stay in touch and started working on implementation games and gamification at the Cracow University of Economics. But apart from a few smaller projects, we planned this Toolbox for Creativity, which is now being implemented. So a project of achieving the assumed learning outcome by creating a physical prototype of a serious game related to this learning outcome. But everything has changed since then, because at the beginning of the lockdown, when we were in the middle of creating this idea, I was, let's say, terrified, because we planned to perform this project during face-to-face classes, where we are able to observe the students' work and their behaviors. So I really couldn't imagine doing a physical project for nearly 100 of students in the time of distance learning, when we already have a lot of different problems and issues with that. But we were very excited about the idea of learning by creating a game, and we put a lot of work into this. So we decided to give it a try, because it is something more than just a physical game or education or gamification. Right, Erik?
I believe so. And I hope everyone agrees with this by the end of the talk. And I'm glad that you mentioned Gamification Europe 2019. We met there. It was my first gamification conference, and I believe it was your first too.
Yes.
And at this conference as well, I found myself talking to a bunch of people, really interesting people, but really tough as well. And one person at this conversation mentioned that they will not support the acquisition of serious games in their organization as a gamification solution. And I'm not gonna lie, I was pretty taken back by the comments, a bit hurt. I probably felt a bit angry, because serious games is something that is close to my heart and that I have been studying for quite a long time. But I think I kept it together. I didn't show that I was angry, I hope. And then after thinking about this, I realized that in principle, I agree with this statement. You see, utilizing serious games in an isolated fashion, in an organization or a university, let's say, will not produce impactful results. When games are implemented or used in an isolated fashion without the framework around them to collect behavioral data, learner will, in most cases, only acquire the knowledge or the specific knowledge that the game is designed for. And this in itself is not a bad thing, but behavioral data that flows from people interacting with the learning solutions is really rich and powerful. Authors such as James G., a researcher in the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, also a published author that I admire, sustains that all games, well-designed games, are learning games. And one of the reasons they are so is because they are constantly collecting data from the player, in this case, the player, but also giving feedback to the player. And gamification is also an excellent tool to collect data and give feedback to the players. Learning and development professionals need to build frameworks around the use of games so these are used to their full capacity. Toolbox for Creativity, the board game that I designed, the development kits that I designed to test our theories at the University of Economics, Cracow, is a game, but it's also a framework and a proven theory of learning. When correctly merged with the learning and development processes and systems that already exist in corporations or in learning institutions, learners have a unique opportunity to learn by doing. And they learn by doing using skills such as Agile project management, design thinking, and several other skills that are considered 21st century skills that we badly need in these times of rapid change. And for this reason, I sustain that this game is more than just a game.
Yeah, I'm happy, Erik, that you explained all of this related to the framework, because like we all know, this year has brought us many challenges in terms of work and education. So sitting in front of the computer for 6 or 8 hours in training at work or classes in case of students, like destroys all the learning efficiency. And as it was already said, we've got so many distractions. We've got Facebook, Instagram, cats, dogs, children, and I'm sure you all know that. And on top of that, problems with the internet connection and simply the inability to do any physical tasks, to meet, to do something together. So it turned out that the current regulation make this the perfect environment to test this framework explained by Erik, as we need new ideas for distance learning and remote work. So Toolbox for Creativity responds to some of the needs. First of all, students have the opportunity to create something physical together. And of course, most of the work is done online, but they are also encouraged to meet and test the solution, to test the prototype. Of course, only if it is possible and safe for them. And after a few weeks, we've got a lot of comments from students who are really involved into the task because they are saying that they can create finally something together. They can create something physically, not only sitting in front of the computer. And what is important for us, we've got a lot of data from the project because students send us prototype testing videos and completed data files about each iteration of the project for each week. So what was initially a problem turned out to be a perfect storm to test our project. It might prove even more effective before or then in pre-pandemic times, because we probably would not create videos of each work and data collection files. but only relying on our evaluation of students' work performance in class rather than gathering data. So it allows us, so the pandemic allows us to gather the data about the project. And one more thing that we realized like a few days ago, that accidentally the whole project turned into gamification, because we've got points, we've got 4 weeks, which are the next levels of the project. We've got teams with selected names which appear in the ranking each week. They can trade. We've got trade between teams that can exchange elements of their physical boxes. And we've got mystery because students do not know what elements to create the game will have at their disposal every week.
Exactly. And I'm going to try to shorten my next point. So one thing that I think everyone that has developed games or worked with games in education is learning outcomes. Just before this talk started, I was at the round table talking to people, and the question that comes to everybody's mind is learning outcomes. So, and I just want to share that by using the development of games to teach, so we learn as we build games, many learning outcomes can be achieved, but the ones I want to focus are the learning outcomes of Agile project management development and design thinking. And institutions such as Harvard Business Review and McKinsey have identified this as 21st century skills and sort of make or break skills that everyone needs in order to work in the present, but also in the future environment. But they also have identified the fact that these skills are really hard to teach. And Toolbox for Creativity uses a framework that supports the learning, as I mentioned, of creating prototypes through using materials which are quite simple, actually. You know, we start with paper, pen, and markers. And then through the process of iteration, which is built into Agile, they go deeper into the knowledge, they go deeper into the development of their prototype, but also the elements get a little bit more complex, and that adds what Ola mentioned, a little bit of the gamification experience, because they are able to advance in the levels. And just like we proved in the experiments that we are currently undertaking, board game development works excellently for groups having to work online, which is kind of a little bit of contradiction, but it is working.
Yeah, I'm happy that you mentioned this 21st century skills, because I would like to add one more thing here, because Toolbox for Creativity allows to achieve any learning goal or any learning outcome by creating a serious game related to it from the scratch. But in our case, when we are testing the project for students of organizational behavior, so the framework of the project itself contributes to the improvement of the students' competences in the area of organizational behavior. So not only the learning outcomes presented by creating a game, but also the whole framework of the project. So in terms of working in a group or coping with stressful situation, manage people or manage projects. So all the skills that we need all in education or at work.
Excellent, excellent. And I'm not sure how we're doing with time. I think we have a couple of minutes. Otherwise, Rob will be here, you know, telling us to to stop. But I can see some comments from the participants. I'm not sure if we have any questions. If we don't manage to or have the time to answer your questions, we will be in the roundtables, you know, answering this. But yes, I can see that people are happy that we are doing some physical activities in order to bring some, I don't know what to call it, more engagement in the classroom. And Ola, I think during your comments, you mentioned one of the feedback that the student gave us at the beginning, and that they were really excited that they had to do something physical, right?
Yeah, like because students have to come to the university to pick up the box to do the project physically with their teams. So I was afraid that they wouldn't be happy to come to the university, but in fact they were really happy. And what is more, I heard a lot of comments that, yay, finally we can make something physically, we can meet with each other, we can be on the campus of the university, even for a second, even in a mask, and with all of this stuff. But like people around me and students really miss the physical aspect of the projects and learning together with other students and with teachers.
Sorry, we have a couple of questions. One is very quick and simple to answer, I guess. You mentioned that there are two skills, design thinking, and somebody said that the other one is agile, but we're not sure if that was the case. Can you confirm?
They are not only two, there are more. When the students in this case, or the users of Toolbox for Creativity, and are working under this framework and building prototypes, they are addressing one particular learning outcome. In the case of our experiment, are learning outcomes related to organizational behavior. Ola can tell us more about this, but there is an extra layer of learning outcomes that occur, and these are related to 21st century skills, which are usually communication, collaboration. But yes, Agile and design thinking are built into the framework that we are using. So students the students create prototypes. So they learn about that by doing it.
Yeah, so they create prototype about the learning outcome. For example, in our case, it is types of temperament, types of personality, coping with stress, coping with burnout. And these are some learning outcomes. We can choose whatever we want. And students are learning by doing the game related to one of these learning outcomes. And then they are checking the work of other groups. But as we already said, they are achieving the knowledge and ability of Agile or management of the team by just the framework of Toolbox for Creativity.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And there was another interesting question. I love these kinds of questions as well. Is what's a bad example of or an example of a bad gamified activity for learning in a class? I know I'm putting you on the spotlight, and this is not an easy one.
No.
You don't have to name any names.
No. I don't know her name because I am purposely blocking myself from the name of the students. I only see team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. We have 30 teams, over 90 students. But all I can tell us about one particular student that from the beginning, she said, games do not work for teaching. So.
Yeah, I've got one student, and like we are still in the process. So we are in the process of creating the prototype, like it is a third week of our project. So I'm awaiting to see what they will create. But the students from the very beginning was an opponent to use this game in learning, because like she said, she prefer old style, to receive an exam and to learn something from the book and then answer the questions. So I'm really excited to hear the comments from this girl group at the end of the project.
Absolutely, that is completely fantastic. Is there anything you two, Ola and Erik, want to wrap up this activity with?
Well, there is a question there that is interesting, because I mentioned that there is another level of skills that can be gained, which is Agile and design thinking. But the question is, can the game be used for teaching Agile and design thinking? And the answer is yes. You can simply use the game to teach participants the process of Agile project management by following the framework, and the active learning outcome will be Agile itself or design thinking itself.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Again, a round of virtual applause for Erik and for Ola. This has been a great presentation, reminding us, among other things, of the importance of physical activity, which is something that I saw many people talking about and in the chat. This has been great. I really thank you very much for being here. Thank you for sharing that knowledge.